All right, what we're going to work through now is reading circle graphs. So what we have here is a circle graph. When we're using Google Sheets to create these later this week, what we're going to do is they're called pie charts on there, okay? So what we're going to work through is just kind of taking this information from here to find out a few things. This circle graph shows, I have a title here, it says after school activities. Okay, and the explanation, the circle graph is information surveyed from 200 students. So 200 students were asked about their favorite after-school activities. These are the results here. Okay, so we have hanging out with friends was chosen 30% of the time, playing video games 25, playing sports 20, watching TV 10, reading 5, and doing homework 10. All right, so some common questions that we're going to see with reading circle graphs is, it might be something like, what is the most popular after-school activity? If we look at our chart here, hanging out with friends is the highest, so at 30%. So hanging out with friends and 30%. So we'll see various questions kind of like that. It might ask for the most popular, maybe the least popular activity, things like that, okay? The second thing that we're going to have here is kind of questions where it asks how many people selected each activity. So we know that 200 students were surveyed altogether. So if we want to find out how many students selected hanging out with friends, what we need to do is find 30% of 200. All right. Now, in order to do that, what we do is we multiply. Okay. So kind of think of means multiply. Except we don't multiply percents. What we do is we convert it into a decimal. So 30% written as a decimal is 0.3. So we just divide this by 100. Okay, and you should have been able to do that earlier in the year in your fractions decimal and percents unit where you're converting. So this is, we have friends. So to find out how many people selected hanging out with friends, we'll go 30% or 0.3 times 200. You can just use your calculator for that. When we go ahead and do that, we end up with 60. So 60 people out of the 200 selected hang out with friends, okay, which equals 30%. So 60 people out of the 200 selected hang out with friends. That is 30% of that. And we can do the same thing with all of the others. So we have sports. I'm just going to slide this down. Sports was 20%. So 20% as a decimal is 0.2 times 200. Just use your calculator to go ahead and do that. So we go 0.2 times 200 equals 20 people selected sports. Okay. TV was 10%. 10% as a decimal, 0.1 times 200. Okay. And that'll be 2 people. All right. 10%, so 20 people. Okay. Sports will be, I messed that up, 0.2 times 200 is 40 people. Okay. Reading was 5%. 5% as a decimal is expressed as 0.05 times 200. Okay, brings us down to 10 people selected reading. We have homework was 10%, so 0 to 10, which will be the same as TV. So 20 people selected that. And our last one was video games, which was 25%. So 25% written as a decimal, 0.25 times 200. And that'll be 50. Okay? So we have 60 people selected friends, hanging out with friends. 40 people selected playing sports. 20 people selected watching TV as their favorite after-school activity. We have 10 for reading, homework 20, and video games 50. If we add all these numbers together, our grand total will be 200 people that were originally surveyed. Okay? So kind of to summarize, if it asks a question where it'll tell you how many people were selected for the survey or the data that is presented in the circle graph, in order to find that, what we do is we take our percent. So again, if we want to find the number of people, it was 20% of the 200 people selected that they like to play sports after school. In order to find the 20% of the 200, or the number of people that selected sports, we need to multiply. All right, how we do that? We turn our percent into a decimal. If you did that by turning it into a fraction, then dividing it, 20%, 20 divided by 100, 0.2, and then we just multiply it by that. Okay, so 0.2 is equivalent to 20%. Multiply it by 200, we got 40. Okay, so that's pretty much it as far as reading circle graphs. You'll see it to where you maybe need to identify the most popular activity, or the most popular, in this case it's activity, but it could be anything. And the second thing that you'll see is where we want to use the information to figure out how many people it is in it. And we'll do that by multiplying our percent by the number of people, but we got to convert it to a decimal first. All right, perfect. Thanks.